Honorable Men Discord. Let's talk Marina Abramović, the Serbian performance artist. Let's talk about it.
How you see yourself is how you perceived. I see a man strong, gifted, head strapping, never down on his knees, begging. Gotta make a way, even in my darkest hour. Say the odds against me was new. I would never cower.
As always, welcome back to another episode. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I drop episodes daily at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So, you might be wondering, who is Marina Abramović? And why exactly are you talking about her on this channel? First, let me repeat what I said in the beginning. She's a Serbian artist, and she has a very interesting way of conveying her art. She's a performance artist, and I have a few things queued up, but the most special thing that I have queued up is towards the end. I'm going to surprise you all with this and how all these things correlates and how it ends up on my channel. Secondly, I'd like to say that I like to explore different topics, so I'm not always going to just talk about what happens in entertainment and in hip-hop. But with that being said, stick around because this is an interesting topic, and I really like to know your thoughts, as always, in the comment section. So let's just get to this first video, and we'll talk about it further.
Years ago, an artist let strangers do whatever they wanted to her body for 6 entire hours. And by hour 3, a loaded gun was held to her head. It was a prophecy that is actually playing out on our phones right now. This work was done by Marina Abramović, and the work was called Rhythm Zero. And she stood in a room for 6 hours, completely still, with a table next to her of 72 objects. Some of them were innocuous, like wine, perfume, flowers, feathers, and some were things like whips, razor blades, knives, and a loaded gun. And the instruction was one sentence: I am the object, you are free, I will not resist. And at first, people were extremely gentle, kissing her, laying flowers at her feet. But as things progressed, people began to cut off her clothes, write words on her body. Someone started to cut her neck and drink her blood. And then someone held a loaded gun to her head and pointed her own finger on the trigger. And when this happened, the room split between people willing to watch her die and those that were trying to save her life. And when the 6 hours ended, she walked towards the audience, and the people who had just violated her ended up leaving the room. And what this artwork tells us is it reveals what ordinary people are capable of when consequences completely disappear. And online, we have built the largest anonymous gallery in human history. And there is one unspoken instruction, which is that the person on that screen will not resist. Every public figure, influencer, content creator, anyone on the internet steps into this dynamic in some kind of way with varying degrees of severity. They place themselves on the table voluntarily and they invite the audience in and they hand over these objects. The difference is that Abramović designed the experiment consciously. She endured it once and she decided when it would end. Online, it never ends. Women on the internet specifically deal with this with perpetual precision. Their images will get taken. Their presence is treated as an object to be acted upon and repurposed and contorted. And porn and other deepfakes are that razor blade on the table doing to a woman's body what the crowd did to Abramovic's body. And then there's the table itself. Meta, TikTok, Twitter. They will tell you we are neutral, we don't control what people pick up, but Abramovic's table didn't algorithmically promote the gun over flowers. The platforms are not the table, they are the curator of the table. They know exactly what objects are going to drive engagement, and they profit from every escalation while bearing none of the cost. Abramović said afterwards, what I learned was that if you leave it up to the audience, they can kill you. She forgave them because she understood something that a lot of us haven't, which is that the experiment was never about what people would do to her. It was about what people become when the architecture around them makes cruelty frictionless. We've built that architecture. We use it every day, and we are all somewhere in Abramovic's room. The only question worth asking is, are you the one holding the gun? or holding the flowers. A lot of us would like to think the latter, and some of us would be wrong. 50 years ago.
All right, so you might be saying again, why are you discussing Marina's work? And first of all, I butchered her last name, so I'm just going to call her Marina. I don't want to continue to butcher her last name. Again, she's a performance artist, and the reason why this episode and this video got my attention is because when I watched it, I said, okay, this is interesting. She's an artist, a performing artist. And by the way, performance art that she does falls in line with things like when you watch ballerinas and performance art where there's just the music and they're dancing. It's about the human body performing. But the reason why I found this interesting is because it seems as though people in the comments, and it seems like this young lady, her name is Naomi Baby Boo. All right. It seems like they to put it in layman's terms, it seems like they had a revelation by watching this woman's work and about what people would, as she put it, and I should say, paraphrase what she said, how people will transform when given the ability to do and choose as they please. Because this lady, again, this performance artist, Marina, she had the table with different instruments, and she allowed people, as part of her exhibit, if you will, to choose different objects. And it was unexpected what people would choose. And again, some people chose softer objects, and they were delicate in the beginning, and then turned somewhat violent and harsh and aggressive towards the end. The reason why this thing striked me, got my attention, and I was surprised by this young lady, Naomi's reaction to it. And there's other people in the comment again that reacted. It surprised me because this is not a surprise to me. All right. And I'm not talking down on Naomi's chosen performance art, but this is not a surprise to me because this is almost a topic on free will. Not so much Marina and her work, although it is about Marina and her work, but what she was displaying wasn't surprising. All right. She didn't know what they were going to choose, but given free will and given power to do as you please, free will and power, authority, people will tend to do things that you wouldn't expect them to do. This is why we have laws in place. This is why we have law enforcement. Because if you strip the world of law enforcement, you strip the world of military, we all know how it's going to play out. It's not going to be a surprise. There's a reason why these things were implemented. So although she did this exhibit some time ago, even before her, she did these existence, there was something called slavery. And you might be saying, oh, here you go again talking slavery. Slavery was a perfect example of not so much free will, but of power, which is almost one and the same. And if you disagree with me, I'll see you in the comment section. Because once power is shown, free will to do anything. See, the free will that those people had was Marina herself giving permission to choose whatever objects you have. But this country exhibit free will because of power. So this country, United States, did what they wanted with slaves here in this country, right? And although this young lady, Naomi, made a correlation to social media in 2026 and how the world is now, I don't disagree with some of the things that she said, if not all of it. I'm taking it a step further. I'm going further back to slavery. Look at how human beings behaved with power and free will. They had free will, so to speak, because who was going to judge them for their actions? Who was going to judge this country for its actions with owning slaves? It was unanimous with the majority that slaves were a good thing. No one stopped to say, this is a little bit odd to own another human being. Again, if anything, and the point I'm making, I'm surprised that people don't dissect the minds of the individuals that own slaves, the families that own slaves, the government that allowed it and turned a blind eye to it. I find that more fascinating than Marina's work, respectfully. But yet, it was amazing to come across this video, and I was looking in the comment section, and people like they marveled at this work that she performed. I personally, again, respectfully to Marina, I wouldn't have been as surprised about the actions of the people. All right. If anything, it would just be a constant reminder of what happened to the slaves, because I couldn't help but think about the slaves when I watched this video. But let me just continue. All right. This is Marina, and this is the exhibit that she had that the young lady was talking about. All right, and just for your curiosity, this Marina Abramovic, and I know I'm pronouncing it wrong, forgive me. At the time of this recording, she's still alive. She's in her 70s. I believe she's 79. She has an institute, all right, bearing her name, and this is the Instagram for it. So these are pictures of her. You can do your own due diligence if you're curious about this topic. And I promise you that I'm going to conclude in a fashion that makes sense. But again, I chose to talk about this because when I came across this, the video of Naomi speaking on it, I thought it was interesting, but I couldn't help but think about the slaves. And I'm fascinated, and it's not a good fascination, because I would have wished that this slavery never happened. But I'm fascinated by the minds of the people, again, that own slaves. I'm fascinated by the mind of the government that allowed slavery to happen in other countries also, other parts of the world. Make no mistake, I'm not bashing the United States alone. The United States is accountable for what their part that they played in slavery, but other places, Africa included, when we're talking slavery, in the Caribbean, I'm more fascinated by how the world accepted slavery, the ownership of other people, of other human beings, and this happened for hundreds of years. All right. Now, this is the Instagram again. I'm going to go to the top. You could do your own research and see her art. And now, while I was putting this episode together, before I even jump to saying that, so performance art, for those of you that don't know what performance art, that's new to performance art, and I'm not saying this to patronize anyone, but the truth is, I myself like to grow, and I like to share things that I come across that's insightful. It can't just all be about entertainers and stuff like that. That's never what this channel is going to fully be about. I can promise you that. All right. So with that being said, as you can see here, it says performance art is a time-based visual art from where the artist's body and live action serve as the primary medium. Emerging as a radical movement in the 1960s and 1970s, it breaks from traditional narrative theater and static art by prioritizing ephemeral experiences, audience interaction, and real-time social political commentary. The body as canvas, the artist's physical presence and bodily actions are central to conveying the art. And I think of yoga. I think of ballerinas. All right, that's a perfect example of what they just described in the body as a canvas. Right. Then it says impermanence. I hope I'm saying that right. Excuse me, because it exists in real time. The piece cannot be replicated exactly, making the live momentary experience the ultimate artwork. Conceptual focus, it prioritizes ideas, emotion, and audience reaction over the creation of a physical sellable object. Before I go to my final thing to conclude this, because I don't want to bore anyone that's not interested in this, but yet I find it to be interesting, and I hope you do also, right? Marina was most recently known for her 2010, as recently as 2010, piece called "The Artist is Present" at the Museum of Modern Art, where she sat silently for hours each day while visitors sat across from her and made eye contact. All right. I don't know if it was to break her eye contact. I don't know if it was one of those like games where, see if you could, who would flinch first. I don't know what it was, but that was the art that she presented, where she just sat there. I guess she just showed up, sat down, and for hours, different people would pass by, and she would just sit motionless, which is not easy to do, by the way. It takes a lot of discipline. Then in 1974, Rhythm O, which the young lady spoke about it earlier, Naomi spoke about it earlier. She allowed audience members to use various objects on her body, exploring thrust, control, and human behavior. It was definitely an exhibit about human behavior. Again, I'm not surprised about human behavior because human behavior should be examined, again, based on slavery. All right? I'm not going to say slavery alone, but slavery is something that human behavior should be studied. All those involved in that. All right? It also says collaborative works with fellow artists Yule, including performances focused on relationships and endurance. She is often called one of the pioneers of modern performance art because her work turns the human body, time, and audience interaction into the art itself. I said that before. So how this ties into this channel is because while I'm putting this together, I said to myself, you know what? Her face looks familiar. And something told me look up Jay-Z's video on Picasso from that album Magna Carta. And sure enough, who is this facing Jay-Z doing a standoff, much like what she performed in 2010, where she sat down in the Museum of Modern Art for hours and visitors sat across from her and made eye contact. So Jay-Z now is just standing up with her. She's not sitting down and they're making eye contact. That was in this whole Jay-Z Picasso a performance of art film. Again, this went over my head back then because I wasn't in tune to performance art. I was just in tune to rap music, as many of you may be also. And so this went over my head. But then again, years removed from the Magna Carta video, obviously, because you see Jay-Z here with a Caesar, and now he has like a Basquiat type hairdo. It dawned on me that I've seen this lady before. I said, let me check to see if this lady was in the Picasso Baby video. And sure enough, she was. So for those of you that did not know, who you're looking at right now is Marina. And I will not say her last name because I do not want to butcher her last name, respectfully. All right. But what's your thoughts on all this? What's your thoughts on her art? What's your thoughts on what I said about the real marvel in revelation should be how human beings owned other human beings in a thing called slavery? That's the real marvel. Yes, her piece was something to watch, but I don't necessarily think I would have been marveled by it. All right. I'm just being honest, respectfully. All right. But that's all I have on this episode. What's your thoughts on all of this? As always, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you have not already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I drop episodes daily at 5 p.m. Eastern time. And as always, stay honorable.